I just watched all of the tribute videos that are included in this piece. They are an amazing testimonial to the wonderful person that Panetha was. For my part, I cannot remember a time since I've been in the profession when I didn't know Panetha. She and I worked together through many decades now and enjoyed each other's company, advocated for students, talked about literature, talked about ethics, talked about the classics. Most importantly, Panetha was the person that I came to when I had questions about what the right thing to do was, when I had to figure out the ethics of a situation. I knew I could count on Panetha for wise counsel, for good advice, and really intelligent insights into whatever questions I had. I will miss our times together, her laugh, her voice, her passion for her work, her caring for students and colleagues, her mentoring. I will miss my friend. Panetha, wherever you are in the universe, know that here, on this plane of existence, you are remembered and loved by me and by so many. And this tribute really is just the tip of the iceberg of all the people who admired and loved you. I hope that this brings a little healing to all who watch it, and that her memory will remain with all of us as a true beacon of hope for our profession and for the world.
I don't know if I have one specific favorite memory of Panetha. I think what really comes to mind is my first meetings with her many years ago when I was brand new to college counseling and quite green and no experience and quite unsure of myself. And then meeting a person in her position, and connecting with her and really feeling like she, regardless of my experience in this profession, she really respected me. She genuinely wanted to hear my thoughts, but also know about my life personally outside of work. And I just immediately felt valued by her. And at that point in time of my life, that was extremely invaluable to me, to have that respect and understanding. And it gave me confidence that I belonged in this profession. And that continued as we always ran into each other at conferences, or if she was to visit my school. It was always clear she wanted to know how I was doing. It was genuine. It was honest. She always wanted to know what I thought about certain perspectives when it comes to college counseling or whatever it might be. And it was very, very clear that she cared about her job. She cared about her students at her university, and she cared about our students at whatever high school I was working at. She has left an indelible mark on me, just a wonderful, thoughtful, caring person, and I will miss her dearly.
Hi, this is Jen Simons, and I've been friends with Panetha since OACAC at Brown University. That's how I met her. I think that's how I met her. Maybe we knew each other before. And I spent a lot of time sort of trailing her around inadvertently in Asia. And when she was traveling with Liz O'Connell. But my favorite memory of Panetha is when we were doing the San Francisco college fairs, and I said, Panetha, we're going to go to this Japanese spa there, and it's like the greatest place I've ever been. I love it. And we're going to, make a reservation. We're going to go with a whole group of, other admissions people, and we're going to do the hot tub and the cold tub and this and that, and it's going to be great. And she was like, okay, I'm in. And I said to her, there's only one thing. It's like everybody's basically nude. And she was like, no. And I was like, it's okay. It's like total San Francisco. Like nobody even, it's all women, and it's all pierced and tattooed and everything, and nobody cares, and it's going to be great. Sorry about my dog barking. And she was like, nope. And I said, okay. If you're gonna come, I'd rather you come. Wear a bathing suit, like it's totally fine. And so we get there and we get into the sauna, and she's wearing a bathing suit, and she's like, you know what? Hold on a second. And she went into the locker room and she got out of her bathing suit, and she joined all of us, happy, fat, skinny, short, dark, light, tatted, pierced, plain, whatever, all these women, and we sat there and we were so happy, and it was just my favorite happy memory of her, and I can't believe she's gone. I love you, Panetha.
My name is Kim Ekström. I'm originally from Sweden. I've worked in at international schools for many years, and I've known Panetha for about 15 years. She visited us in Thailand and Korea, and we met regularly at conferences around the world, and we presented together a couple of times. I once visited her in Providence, where she welcomed me on a Saturday, which is really unusual for university representatives to invite counselors to spend time with them over a weekend, but Panetha did. She had her leg in some form of cast, I remember. She had trouble walking, and still she spent the whole morning up until lunch with me, showing me around the whole campus at Brown. And that was just Panetha, always so giving and considerate and caring, and loving to connect and having these conversations about higher education in the United States and how we guide students. You would have conversations that mattered with Panetha. And she was so insightful. I love the stories that she told when she visited us in Thailand in particular, on the stage, talking to students and parents. She talked about the admissions process as a love story between the students and Brown, and finding your fit and falling in love. And when she talked with her soft, caring voice, you could hear a pin drop in the theater, even though we had 300 students and parents there. She had something genuine to say, and people cared. We talked on Zoom about a year ago, almost exactly 1 year ago, council calls. And Panetha, what I remember mostly from that conversation is, and that's really when Panetha kind of lit up, is when she talked about how they had admitted 14 Afghani female students that were on a plane to go to university in Bangladesh, but that they had sent them to the United States instead, and they were all admitted to Brown. And she talked about changing lives in such a passionate way, and she always did that. University admissions was not a job; it was a mission for Panetha. She was always a real student advocate, and a fantastic connector. She connected with people, colleagues, friends, and students around the world always in a genuine way. And I know that I speak for all people that have been fortunate enough to get to know Panetha when I say that we miss her so much. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Russman, and I'm one of 6 regional education officers with the Office of Overseas Schools with the U.S. Department of State. One facet of my work is to liaise with the College Board on the Overseas Schools Project. This project, which has run for over 40 years, involves key admissions officers from U.S. colleges and universities volunteering their time to provide U.S. government-dependent children attending international schools, wherever there are U.S. embassies and consulates, with information about higher education and the application process. For years, volunteering for this program entailed traveling abroad. During COVID, the visits were done virtually, and now there's a blend of virtual and in-person. Starting in 2006, Panetha Ott volunteered to be part of this program. In person, virtually, Panetha visited over 40 schools in 26 different countries, working with thousands of students, not just U.S. government dependents, but all students at these schools. She also worked with counselors and staff at the schools and met with parents. Kathmandu, Chennai, Zagreb, Prague, Amman, Doha, and New Delhi are just a few of the places she visited. I could show you a whole list of places. Those are the places that she visited in a short period of time. More important than the numbers I just gave you is the quality of the care and attention she gave this work. During the first year of COVID, Panetha did virtual visits with some schools in South Central Asia. The following school year, because the schools are visited every 2 or 3 years, Panetha wasn't scheduled to visit one of the schools in a particularly far-flung place. Panetha said to me, "Mary, I know I'm not officially visiting them, but would you mind if I checked with the school and with the counselor to see if they needed anything, if they needed help? Would I mind if she helped them? If she went above and beyond?" We all know this. That was Panetha's approach to everything: work, friendship, family. I feel so lucky to have worked with Panetha for 3.5 years and know she will inspire me and everybody who sees this video for years to come.
Hi, Panetha. We're definitely going to miss you. We were neighbors in Rhode Island for many years, 20-something years, and we pretty much never saw each other in Rhode Island. We would meet up somewhere in the world, some exotic place, and we would always laugh about that. So I'll keep that as my memory, and we're always going to be thinking of you. Thank you so much for all the efforts that you did for international higher ed. Mrs. Fred Johnson.
Hi, Panetha. It took me a long time to thinking about what should be said in your tribute. And this is completely a new way for me to experience the American culture. And thank you for being a wonderful colleague, friend, advisor, guidance to all of the community. And without you, I think the international admission world and also the college counseling world would be so different. And I still recall the time that when you and Liz traveled down to Asia, and then in between the conferences, you're still busy planning the information session as well as the college counselor events in Shanghai. And then every single time I see you, you don't have time to eat. But every single time I come to visit, you always help me to arrange the best meals that I can have in town, and then providing me with lots of the background information, even for the clam chowder and then the Rhode Island chowder. You're such an amazing person, and I still can't believe that you're being away from us, but we will try our very best to share your story with the people, and hopefully we can hold the memory of you as long as we can, and I hope this is going to be forever. All the very best, and I miss you a lot.
Hi. It's not to say that there was one special memory. Every memory was special with Panetha, as I'm sure you know. The grace, the warmth, the care that she showed everyone, every single time I saw her, that was present, and that is what will always remain in my heart.
My name is Laura, and I started working with Panetha back in 2009 when I worked at a school in South Africa called African Leadership Academy. Panetha, of course, was our contact in the Brown admissions office, and what I loved. One of my favorite memories is that Panetha was one of the first international admissions officers who showed real enthusiasm and excitement about ALA students, how special they were, and how much she hoped that the right student would find his or her their way to Brown. And in fact, the right student did. And the next year, Brown enrolled the first of several alums from that high school at Brown. And it really signaled to a lot of other universities in the US and elsewhere that our school was serious, that our students were strong, that they were going to be impactful on campuses, and it genuinely helped our brand new school to get its footing and then to flourish. And Panetha was so keen, and she took the time to really understand our school, to get to know the students who applied. And of course, this is, not news to anyone. This is not surprising to anyone. I know that Panetha gave every student in every school the same treatment, which is why she was so special and such an important and respected member of our industry. And so I always loved chatting with her, catching up with her at conferences, seeing her on our campus when she was visiting, hearing about the adventures that she and Liz and Keith and Rebecca and others and Robin and everybody got up to on their trips. Just in retrospect, really valued that she was out there in the ether, in the profession, doing the good work, fighting the good fight, and being a champion for students. And if you can see right behind me, right there, the tradition will continue, because I'm really hoping that we don't have favorites, but one of my favorites of my current students will end up at Brown this year. And I think that would be a very fitting way to continue the good work that Panetha was doing. So I just want to express our thanks and to say that in the 10 plus 15 year history of our school, we hold a very special place in our hearts for Panetha, who was one of our early champions, and it's great to think of how many others she championed over her career and her life, and I'm glad we're celebrating that.
First, I apologize for missing the virtual gathering because I was traveling with my family. Speaking of Panetha, one of the professional colleagues we worked closely with. My favorite memory was a couple years ago in 2015. Panetha and I were working in the steering committee for the first regional institute of China for international ACAC. My impression, she was, very professional. She was very patient and kind to offer any help and insights. She loved her job, but more importantly, she loved students. Before the pandemic, she kept traveling and visiting schools in China pretty much twice or maybe a couple times a year. We will miss her. I think, the college admission world is going to be different without her. We love you. We miss you, Panetha.
What I always treasure and will remember about Panetha is her sincerity and dedication to the field of international education, especially serving Chinese students during the difficult times. One of the most recent memory of her was during the pandemic when no one was able to travel, and we had a couple of online info sessions. There we encountered some tech issues. It took some time to solve. And in addition to that, we just realized it before the start of the sessions. But despite that, Panetha was so patient when we are trying to solve the problems and she tried so many alternatives for us. The session turned out to be such engaging, lively, and delighted conversation in the end. Everyone enjoyed it, and all the credits go to Panetha for such a patient, sincere, dedicated professional colleague who is always ready to give, to serve our students. I'm so proud to call her not only a colleague, but also a friend or even a family member.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Westfall, and I was Director of International Admissions at Yale for a number of years. And this is when I first got to know Panetha. And I just wanted to say how grateful I am to be able to share this message with you about Panetha. And I wanted to send you my deepest condolences on her passing, and to send you lots of love. I traveled with Panetha probably 3 times to Africa. It was me, Panetha, and Liz O'Connell together. And we were quite the trio. I loved traveling with Panetha because she was always so full of fun and so full of joy. And she was really a very kind person and a very attentive person. When I first saw her give a presentation, I forget where it was, maybe in Kenya, and she started talking about liberal arts from a Greek perspective, I was blown away. I'd never heard anything like that before, and I was like, ooh, I better up my game. How am I going to do that? And I never managed it. So I just sat back and listened to Panetha and listened to what she had to say and her wisdom and her thoughtfulness about the US educational experience. So it was a great honor to get to know her in that way and to spend that time with her traveling through these amazing places all across Africa. So again, I just wanted to send you my deepest condolences at this time, and sending you my warmest wishes. Thanks.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to contribute to the memory of this very, very special woman and colleague who became a friend over the years. So there are 2 things that spring to mind immediately about Panetha. To be honest, we didn't hear from her very often, but when we did hear from her, we always knew it was going to be news and thoughts and insights that were very much worth taking on board. When I first heard about Panetha's passing in November, it was that time of year when college admissions folk at high schools around the world get rather banal emails from multiple colleges saying happy festive season and send in the applications, and it's all rather tokenistic and banal, as I say. And if there was one thing about Panetha, it was that she was the antithesis of tokenism and was never banal. She was the opposite of that. Everything she said was worth listening to. It was genuine. She was authentic. And I really appreciated that very much in our working relationship. And I think the second thing that is worth acknowledging at this point is that Brown University was, for many years, the university in the world that received the most UWC graduates. There was no other university on the planet that accepted as many UWC graduates as Brown did for many years during Panetha's tenure. And I think that is almost entirely down to the advocacy and support of the movement that came directly and personally from Panetha. So on behalf of all the students from United World Colleges, I just want to put on record what an amazing impact she had in their lives. Thank you, Panetha.
I met Panetha many times when she came to Thailand to recruit students here. I always appreciated her very relaxed but very sincere disposition and how she was very open to students and very caring. So I wouldn't say I had a favorite moment, but I just in appreciation of knowing her through the years and meeting her here many times. I'm really saddened by her death, and I send my most deepest condolence to all of her family and friends. She will definitely be missed in, the educational circle and with counselors like myself who have known her and have met her on numerous occasions.
Hello, my name is Tim Stokes, and I am a high school counselor that is currently working at Colegio Roosevelt in Lima, Peru. But I first got to know Panetha when I was working at the American International School in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And Panetha was coming through to meet with our students through the State Department program. And I had previous counselors from previous admissions representatives from various universities come through on this program at different schools, and to be honest, it was rather uninspiring, the previous one. So when Panetha reached out, I said, sure, this is something that's required of us, and we'll have a day where we do that. But in Bangladesh, we didn't have too many college reps coming through at the time. So I asked Panetha how much she could do for us, and boy, did she go above and beyond. She met with every grade level, 9 through 12. She was separate sessions, and she met with our teachers to talk about writing letters of recommendation, and she had parent sessions after hours, and she was just a dynamo throughout all those sessions, and so kind and warm. And I remember, and it's still sitting on my shelf at home, unread, but I'm going to read it for you, Panetha. A book called The Good Muslim, and it was a gift that she brought to me from just the first time we met. And we would continue to see each other through the years after I left Bangladesh, and crossing paths at various conferences. And there was always such a warmth and such a acknowledgement of who you were as a person. Just one of my favorite people that I've ever worked with in this field, and a wonderful woman. So my heart goes out to you, Panetha, and to family. I will miss you very much.
Greetings to Panetha's family and Panetha's family of friends. I've delayed uploading this message because I've had a hard time thinking about one favorite memory of Panetha. It's kind of like trying to figure out where and when did Panetha and I first meet. I know I've known Panetha for well over 25 years, but I'm hard-pressed to give you an exact meeting date and time. I only know that in those early days of our meeting, I was renovating and settling into a home on the east side of Providence. Panetha was a neighbor. And I was also settling into my work in international admissions and guidance. And as a neighbor on Providence's east side, and as an incredible professional colleague, Panetha was there at the beginning of it all for me. The value of living is not just about counting the number of years that we're here, but it's what we do with that time. I think we all understand that. And it speaks very much to Panetha's short time here with us. I have to say we needed more. Just picked up a book by Ian Baruma. It's a Tokyo romance. And in the introduction, there's a quote from another writer, Simon Leys, in his collection of essays, The Hall of Uselessness. And it struck me as being really appropriate to what I wanted to say today and my relationship with Panetha. The quote was, "Cultural initiation entails metamorphosis, and we cannot learn any foreign values if we do not accept the risk of being transformed by what we learn." Everyone knows Panetha was a true internationalist, like many of us, but she studied and she learned and she really internalized different cultures, and we are the beneficiaries of that. We're simply all the better for it, for knowing her. For family members who are listening to these tributes and this tribute, I trust you see and you hear how much Panetha really touched and influenced those around her, myself included. She was genuinely curious about everything and everyone, no matter their country, their class, their culture. And as Panetha was transformed, as she grew from her travels and her experiences and her understanding of others, we in turn were influenced by her understanding, her observations, and her readiness to give. She was just such a giving person in our field. Panetha was also always ready to listen. And while she was undoubtedly resolute in her convictions, she was also always ready to listen. And she was not afraid to change if change was the right action. As I reflect on this, and as I've been thinking about what to say today, perhaps I do have something that is my favorite memory of Panetha, after all. It's her voice, the unique cadence of Panetha's voice. I can hear it. I just ask, can you hear it? You knew her. I can hear her. When I think about a phone call or interactions at a conference or sitting around a table at committee meetings or sharing a meal together at a restaurant or anywhere, I can hear the cadence of Panetha's voice. The way she would say hello, it was like a song, or the way she would patiently explain something, or how she talked excitedly to students about learning and education and possibilities for the future, or what she knew and what she didn't know. I guess I just loved that voice in every sense of the word, the multiple senses of the word, and I miss it terribly. I just want to say thank you, Panetha, for leaving your voice with me and with us. Peace be with you.
Greetings from Bogota, Colombia. This is Juan Camilo Tamayo, Juanca. I just finished a college fair at Colegio Nueva Granada. Many of you know CNG. Family of Panetha, first of all, my most sincere condolences. My deepest condolences to you and to my friends. I still am in shock. I attended the memorial a couple weeks ago. Thank you to Marie Vivas and the whole committee for giving us an opportunity to grieve a dear friend of ours. It is really hard, and that is a road that we're all going through. We don't know when, but one thing that I know about Panetha is that we have to live life at fullest and we need to take advantage of every single opportunity. And that's what Panetha did. We did a beautiful project in China, the institute, the Regional Institute for International ACAC. And she was our faculty. And Fiona, our president of International ACAC, Jose Huanca, she will be an amazing faculty. Why don't you follow up? We need her in China. When I speak about Panetha, I speak about ethics, I speak about integrity, and also a good friend. One thing about Panetha, at a conference, she said, Huanca, let's talk. And she will grab me and say, do you have a minute? That minute converted into 30 minutes, 40 minutes to an hour. At a conference, we just go from one meeting to another meeting, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But what caught my attention about Panetha is that she will listen and care about my family. She will say, how's your family? How's your love life? How's your heart? How's your health? Tell me about your dad. Tell me about your mom. Tell me about your whole family. Are you doing well, my friend? Without touching any subject related to family. So she knew the importance of family, and I was very impressed and touched by that. We wouldn't talk about work. We just talk about family and friendship. We will exchange, she is from her region, from Greece. I will exchange thoughts about Colombia. We will talk about geopolitics, but very analytical and always really, really good. I was an admission counselor. I'm an independent counselor, and we had the best conversations. In China, while we were putting the Regional Institute together, getting ready for that week, she and Rhonda from the Waikepa School, they were riding this motorcycle. There is a picture of that moment, and her smile, her free spirit, and we will always have lunch at a noodle place that became our office in China. I have many memories, many stories, many trips, like the one in Milan with Mary Myers. That was absolutely an incredible presentation for students from Colegio San Carlos. And her topic was always like the college application, integrity, the college essay. But I guess as an educator, you pick good lines, good teaching moments from your mentors. And I picked so many lines from Panetha. An incredible reader, an incredible writer, and an incredible friend. To the family, my deepest and sincere condolences. I lost a dear friend. I can't imagine the pain that you're going through, but I will assure you, her legacy will stay with us for years and years and years, and we're gonna make sure that happens until one day we meet her back, hopefully in heaven, with her, a beautiful star shining next to her. But for now, we have a lot of work to do. We have the legacy that she gave to us in education, and we got to continue working hard and paving the road of our future generations. Panetha, I love you, te amo, and I will see you when I see you. Take care, and thank you for all the teaching moments.
For me, my favorite memory of Panetha isn't a specific one, but rather a series of consistent and meaningful memories. Every year for my first 12 years of working in Korea, Panetha would come visit our city and host an information session for our students and parents. I was fortunate enough to be able to drive her from her hotel to the venue, and it wasn't a terribly long ride, but it was during those moments that I was able to catch up and reconnect with Panetha. She was always so inviting, warm, and sincere throughout our conversations. And then when she took the stage to share about her institution, professional and personal are two words that come to mind. But perhaps my last memory, most favorite memory, was when I was reunited with her here in Singapore. The transition from Korea to Singapore was a significant one for me and my family. So nervousness and anxiety were certainly emotions that I was experiencing. However, when Panetha came to visit, it was shortly after I arrived in Singapore, and she immediately encouraged me with words of affirmation that this is the place I was meant to be at, and that no matter what I was about to experience, I was ready and prepared for it. To hear those words from a familiar face and someone who was so impactful and influential in our industry was a feeling and a moment I won't forget. Panetha, I don't know how to thank you enough for all that you have done for so many of us. We are all better professionals and better people thanks to you. We love you a lot and we'll miss you dearly.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear the passing of Panetha. She significantly impacted the lives of those around her, and she will deeply be missed. And these are the memories that I remember the most, is just how she had that special gift for making everyone feel seen and valued. She had that kind of presence that's truly rare and something that is to be cherished. Her dedication to helping students find their ideal university fit was also a testament to her commitment to the betterment of others. And I just always loved that. You always felt like you were the only one in the room when you were in her presence. And while it's difficult to say goodbye to someone who's made such a positive impact, it's also heartening to think of the many lives that she's touched and the memories she leaves behind. Her kindness and her generosity of spirit is something that I'll always remember. And I know she's going to be honored by those who knew her. Sending lots of love and light.
Panetha was someone I always looked up to. I think the first time I met her was at an Ivy Plus international admissions gathering back when I was a young admission officer. I remember thinking, wow, who's that? How do they know everything? She inspired me to want to learn more, to know more, to better understand the world and how to serve its students. This is how I felt, but I know she also inspired generations of admission and counseling professionals. Panetha, I miss you tremendously. Thank you for always taking the time to talk with me, for our great conversations. Thank you for making me a better educator. Thank you for your kindness and your humanity. Your legacy will live on through those of us that you inspired.
Hello, I'm here to talk about Panetha, and my name is Katie Lee. I used to be a college counselor who would actually visit Brown University, once a year, and so kind of Panetha became my person to go to see in Brown, and I remember she was always welcoming and very down to earth, and so she would be the person who would actually give me a lot of good ideas how to be I guess in a way better counselor for my students. And I've been always grateful that I had someone like her so in the States, well, like the other side of the fence, I guess you might call it. And and so when I heard the news about Panetha's passing, it was like so shocking. And because in my mind, she's always there in Brown, so I don't really work as a college counselor anymore, but I do miss the interactions, sort of like naturally formed friendship with some of the college counselors, and Panetha was surely one of them. And and so I was very shocked and sad. I still can't believe that she is actually gone. But wherever she is, I think she'll still be that person who's always welcoming and always wholesome, down to earth. And so I'm sure she, wherever she is now, she is somebody who is loved and liked and respected. Care. Thank you for listening.
Hello, friends and family of Panetha Ott. This is Jane Larson. I'm the Executive Director of the Council of International Schools. And today I want to share our love and joy having been part of Panetha's life, in particular throughout her leadership as a member of the Council of International Schools. Panetha was chair of our Higher Education Committee for many years and led the way to forge innovative practices to connect universities with students at schools around the world. She was student-focused from beginning to end, and she was a caring colleague. Personally, she supported me when I became executive director at CIS. She was at my side every single step of the way, for which I'll always be grateful. Our board member, Jackie Vogel, who's vice president at the State University of New York at Plattsburgh, remembers her fondly throughout their many adventures, traveling around the world to meet students. Our other colleagues on the higher education team remember her with great fondness as well. Katrina Snow, who's here, shares her best wishes as well, as do our former colleagues Nunana Naomi, Paul Green, Wilhelmine Neuenhaus, and countless others who have led our higher education team in support of members around the world. We know that you grieve deeply at Panetha's loss, but she continues to be a bright light in our hearts. Thank you for making it possible for us to share our memories with you today in this way. With much love and gratitude on behalf of all of us at CIS.
I'm probably the last one to do the video on tribute to Panetha. Such sad news, but there's life. My memories of Panetha are always with Elizabeth O'Connell. The duo coming to my schools where I worked at to present was always a highlight. Both were so friendly and open, and both to the counselors, and the students and the parents. Panetha was also a circuit rider for the State Department, Office of Overseas Schools. And my last memory of her was when she came to St. Stephen's and just did a great job with the parents and the students, and we had a nice dinner. But every time I had a contact with Panetha or needed to have an inquiry about a student, she was very responsive, professional, and just a wonderful person. So again, she'll be missed. I think of her as a close friend and an amazing colleague over many years of university advising.
My favorite memory of Panetha is something that she likely would have thought was very small. We were at a conference, standing at a table between sessions, just catching up, and she noticed off to the side there were a couple of first-timers. They had the first-time attendee badge on their lanyard. She invited them over, and we spent 15 minutes getting to know these new people in the field who were our colleagues. That itself is not uncommon. What is uncommon is the authenticity and the respect and the approachability that Panetha demonstrated in every interaction. She was, in that moment, for me, the embodiment of the professional that I aspired to be. And so there are a lot of memories that I have with presenting with her and serving on committees, and lots of laughs, and she was one of the most brilliant people I've ever known. She's insightful and genuinely interested and caring. But it's that mentorship, not just as a colleague or a professional, but as a human. that really stands out to me. And the legacy, the tremendous legacy that Panetha Ott has left is so much larger than she would have acknowledged or would know. And that is the embodiment of her humility and her generosity and everything good in a human. That's my favorite memory of Panetha.
Favorite memory of Panetha, that's hard, but I can say, aside from the privilege of meeting her for the first time in Beijing quite a few years ago, I think my favorite memory is that when I returned from China in 2017, she took the time to help me get resettled back in the United States by answering some of my questions and just helping me reorient myself to the world of college counseling here in the States. I was a high school counselor, not a college admissions officer. And on behalf of the students she helped bring to the United States, they too are wonderfully grateful for all that she did on their behalf. So to her friends and family, thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Newcomb, and Panetha was a dear friend of mine for many, many years. The one memory I have of Panetha is her and I writing back and forth to each other and sending each other scholarly articles when we were both working on our dissertations at different universities, but on a very similar topic. If it wasn't for Panetha, I probably would never have gotten my research done. She was an incredible cheerleader and just a wonderful, wonderful person. I miss her very much.
Hi, this is Peter Newcomb, also former colleague and friend of Panetha's at Brown for many years. She helped get me a start at Brown when I first started as an outside application reader. And then later we worked closely together on the international team. And, I always appreciated how she would advocate for kids coming from refugee camps and from war-torn countries and dangerous situations, and always seeing the best in them and hoping to bring them to the Brown community.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Whitney Green. I'm the Director of International Admissions for Columbia University. And I had the absolute privilege and pleasure of collaborating with Panetha as part of our IB Plus group for the better part of the last 8 years that I've been working in international admissions. As far as my favorite memory of Panetha, the two that really come to mind, the first, which speaks to her just incredible generosity of spirit and time. I was trying to figure out how to pay for some visa fees for some very low-income students that were coming into Columbia that were enrolling. And I had to figure out how to pay for their SEVIS fee. And I was running out of time, and there was no one at Columbia that could help me. And so I reached out, and Panetha answered me immediately, set up a meeting with me on a Saturday morning, and sat on the phone and walked me through step by step of exactly what to do so that I could get these visas through for students who were coming from around the world. So not even at Brown, students who weren't even a part of her campus, and a colleague that wasn't directly working with her. But because it made a process easier for students, and because it was in service to serving students as well as me, Panetha didn't hesitate to make sure that got done and to find the time to do that. My second favorite is actually, we were on a Zoom chat. We had monthly Zoom chats amongst the 10 of us once COVID hit, so that we could figure out how to best support colleagues and students around the world and what we could be doing to really get information and services to students who really needed them. And in one of them, we were joking around, as we always do, and we told a colleague, Keith Light from Yale, mentioned that he would love some cookies, right? Just kind of jokingly offhand said, would love some cookies or something to that degree. And then after the meeting, Panetha emailed myself and our friend Robin up at Harvard and said, well, let's actually send him the cookies. And so Panetha coordinated to send him some nice, piping warm, hot cookies from Insomnia Cookies. And then we got this just adoring email from Keith of just, how much he needed that to lift his spirits during the regular decision period, which is always kind of tough and crazy. And I told her, let me know how much I need to pay you back. And she noted next time we get to hang out, that I could buy her a drink. And I've kept that in the back of my mind. I've reminded her of that. Unfortunately, I never got to have that drink with her. But we'll make a point to make sure that I pay it forward in the spirit of Panetha and how she served so many of us. So I will miss her dearly. I'm so grateful for the time that our paths crossed, and that I was a very fortunate beneficiary of her love and spirit and kindness and humor and just everything about her. So thank you for this opportunity to send something small on her behalf, thinking of her, and we'll continue to keep her spirit alive in the work that we do every day in admissions, and in the care that we give to just others in general. So love you, Panetha, love your family, love everyone at Brown and all of our colleagues, and thank you so much. Take care.
Panetha was one of the first people I met after arriving into the U.S. as a first-year international student at Brown. That was 5 years ago, and she was the person that was responsible to help international students to pick up some of the documents for visa purpose. And I was very scared and nervous as someone that came from a different culture that was about to begin college here in the US. And she just made me feel very welcomed. And I was, to this day, I remember so clearly that upon meeting her, she was like, oh yes, I remember you from reading your application. And I was genuinely so shocked because I didn't think that admission officers would remember each applicant that well. Certainly not for my application, but she really pointed out some of the details in my application, and I think I will remember that interaction forever because, again, she was one of the first faces that welcomed me here, that made me feel like I can find a home on campus and also in this new culture, and I did. I think that interaction was very impactful to me as someone that was beginning a new chapter here in the US.
My favorite memory of Panetha was during my freshman year, during fall break. So I went to Providence to visit her, and she drove me over some of the most beautiful sceneries and took me to a windmill and told me the history. I remember the sun when we had brunch and her smile and just how joyful this afternoon was for me. And also years later when I hosted Liz and Panetha here in Hong Kong, that was the year when she just got her PhD degree from Penn. Recall on the stage that usually the Brown alumni stand on one side and Penn alum the other. She specifically stood in the middle and told everyone she's part of both families. And so that's just the kind of person she is, that we remember just the amount of happiness, the joy, the positivity, and the care that she's like a warm sun. The day I remember with her in Providence, like the sun on that day, she warms all of us, and she will forever be with us. Rest in peace, Panetha, and we will always remember you.
My greatest memory with Panetha, I think it was when she told me that she remembered me from elementary school and that we both went to Lincoln Elementary School together in Brockton, Massachusetts. In a way, I kind of think of the fact that Panetha, I kind of grew up with Panetha because I came into this profession about 30 years ago, and Panetha was always there to guide you and take a phone call, and she loved her Turkish families and kids, and I think that she has a special place in all of our hearts here in Turkey. I'll miss the chats. Even when she had bad news for me, we always set it aside and talked about how we were doing and how our lives were going. Panetha was always there when I had a question and a tricky situation. She always made you feel special, and even though I of course understood that there were times that we chatted that she was under a lot of stress, she always made time for me and for us, and I'm just heartbroken, but I'm glad that we can share our memories and that you can know as a family how special she was for all of us. Thank you very much.
Oh, Panetha, I miss you so much. You are such a dear friend. Whoever is listening, I want you to know that Panetha has a very special place in my heart and has an extremely esteemed, special place in our international education and college access communities. She is missed so dearly, and her power will continue to be felt for a very long time. I first knew Pamela about 2 decades ago. I helped to manage a State Department grant and was fortunate enough to be able to recruit Panetha to be what we then called circuit riders. That was her role, and she would visit on behalf of the U.S. Department of State schools that are affiliated with the diplomatic corps there. And she was wonderful, and she was so valued by those school communities, the students, the parents, the counselors, the diplomatic corps there, and all the State Department officials in Washington. Liz O'Connell first introduced me to Panetha and highly recommended her for the program. And we partnered and collaborated like we had always been best friends. So respected her work and valued our friendship and learned so much from her. One other occasion that I want to highlight, a memory of Panetha, is taking calls from her when she was writing her dissertation for Penn. She represented Brown, of course, with the State Department project, but it was getting her PhD from Penn and writing a dissertation on, let me see if I can remember the title, Agencies, Third Parties, and the Grooming of the Chinese Applicants. So it was about the rise of mainland China, which had really taken off in 2008. And she was so timely and prescient and so insightful about how she chose that topic and really pursued it. And I was honored to serve, privileged really to serve as a source for that. And she called me several times where we would meet at different conferences. And I always learned more from her, I think, than I provided. But at the time, this was a time of transition at the College Board where I was working. And I didn't think it was wise necessarily to have my name listed on that if it was going to be public. And so I asked her, to just put it as a off the record or an anonymous source. And she did. She respected that. And then so I was reading back her dissertation recently and noticed when she referenced College Board that she referenced a person named Bridget Allworthy. And I worked for the College Board for more than 2 decades, 21 years, and didn't recognize that name, and even Googled it and put it into LinkedIn and couldn't find anything. And there could still be a contact that she had there named Bridget Allworthy. But when I Googled it, I realized that it was a character from the novel Tom Jones. And I thought that's perfect for Panetha to have that sort of mischievous humor. And it made my day. And the last thing I will say about my memory of Panetha is my last time I got to interact with her was through this medium, through Zoom, so it was mediated, and we were working together on a C Alpha project where she again was offered her time to serve as an advisor to that group, and I was helping to shepherd what they were doing. And whenever I would ask her for Panetha's time, she was never hesitate to offer it. She was so generous, and usually we would schedule a half hour, 45 minutes, but end up talking an hour and a half or 2 hours, and without blinking. And I was, it was such a pleasure. But the last thing we spoke about was at Brown, she had recruited and was supporting a group of students from displaced backgrounds, refugee background students and DACA students and others, that she was working really hard to make sure that they were successful at Brown, that their transition was right. This was back in the fall, only a few weeks before, unfortunately, she passed, and she clearly was not feeling up to where I would usually see Panetha. She did not disclose everything that was going on, but it struck me that even in that moment, that she was taking care of international students from underrepresented, underprivileged backgrounds, and really supporting them. And that's who she was, and that's what we'll miss, and that's what we will always honor in our community. Thank you, Panetha, for all that you have done for us.
Hey, I'm Paul Campbell. I knew Panetha because I've worked for the International Baccalaureate Organization for forever, almost 35 years. And as much as sitting here in the dying light of a lovely spring day cheers me up, I can't help but be saddened by our loss. But I'd rather talk about glory than grief right now. Or generosity. That's the word that comes to mind when I think of Panetha Ott. When I was new to the IB, as a recovering journalist, I decided it was time to reach out to universities to talk about the value of an IB education. And to say that I was naive is an understatement. So, I charmed myself onto a few committees, and one of those committees was full of senior international admissions people from very selective universities. A really, really rowdy, wonderful group. And, they took me as I was. And Panetha was the leader in not just accepting me, but appreciating me. She made me feel welcome from the first time I met her, and that sense of feeling welcome never went away. One story, several years ago, I applied for a job within my organization. It was a job I did not want, but I felt I had to apply to it because everybody said, "This is for you, blah, blah, blah." So I collected letters of recommendation from various friends and colleagues, and they've since, long been cast into the dustbin of history, but I kept one, the one from Panetha, because it was so generous, so complimentary. It makes me smile even to think about it. She always seemed to see the best in everyone, certainly in me. And that moment of brightness helps kind of illuminate my sadness. I didn't know Panetha nearly as well as others. Nonetheless, I feel the emptiness of the seat at the table that she filled with such grace and such eloquence and such persistence and such beauty. We will miss you.
Well, my favorite memory of Panetha was the time I discovered that she liked to sneak out of conferences to go to the museums. And once I picked that up, I just go with her and the group, and I learned that the museums always have sales, good sales, so I could top up, save those gifts for Christmas, and I would be so cool. That's one of the coolest memories I have of Panetha.
I don't have a single favorite memory of Panetha, but I remember how her face lit up and her smile, especially as she was about to crack a joke. She glowed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you could never expect a conventional response or answer from Panetha.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you knew what was coming was completely unexpected. And so, I remember once trying out boots for winter, for rain boots in China, of all the world. So we had a globetrotter relationship with.
Oh yeah, we went to that secret shopping place where they opened up the wall to show us all the bootleg goods.
And you would go to the end, and I remember she got a great pair of hunter boots.
Yeah.
I remember that.
You didn't expect that out of her because she's always so calm.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of my absolute dearest friends in this world, like a sister for me. We were colleagues, but we were really close friends. We worked together, we traveled the world for work, and she was an inspiration to me. I will always treasure my time with her. We laughed together, and we also, experienced things together. I'm thinking of the times that, we visited Rwanda together and stood in the church where so many sad things had happened, and, had an opportunity to sort of reflect on that and reflect on the world. I remember, the fun trips that we had together, sitting cross-legged in a Buddhist temple in Myanmar, exploring the streets of Kyoto, and all the wonderful people we met along the way. It wouldn't be Panetha without dining together, sharing stories together, breaking bread, so to speak. She was so interested in cultures and people, and it was all about making a difference to others. It was all about others. There was nothing that had her at the center. It was always how she could help others, support others, inspire others. And I hope, having her memory alive, that I can continue in her footsteps in that regard. Miss her dearly. Such a very, very special person that made such a difference in this world.
One of my favorite memories of Panetha is from 2016. She was in Philadelphia doing her doctoral program at the University of Pennsylvania, and I was there at the same time doing my master's degree. She met me at 7 a.m. in the morning ahead of her fully packed day for her doctoral program so that I could interview her on a project I was doing. What was really interesting is that she was able to talk about these complex processes and a very targeted demographic, and yet she explained everything so simply to me so that I could follow along and understand. But as we were talking, what became apparent very quickly was just how much she cared about the people she met during her outreach, whether it was the students or the counselors or her coworkers. And it was also pretty apparent that she cared about me. And that was quite special because I wasn't part of Panetha's inner circle of friends. I was a colleague. I met her mostly when she traveled through Beijing to visit counselors, and she was doing outreach there. or I would meet her at the annual conference. And so I'm not alone when I say that Panetha, in her giving and in her listening, just made me feel so valued.
So, hello from Istanbul. We are sitting here. My name's Joan, and this is
Osman.
And we just wanted to say a couple of things about Panetha. We found a picture of Panetha. So this is when I met Panetha in 2005 when I was in your office.
That's right.
And you can also see in that picture Martha Merrill from Connecticut College. And that was my very first touch point with Panetha. And she was really kind to me, even though I was just entering the profession and I didn't know anything about anything and I was asking ridiculous questions. She was super approachable and she was super kind. And one of the things that I will remember about Panetha is how approachable she was. Like, even though she was part of like the highly rejected colleges and an Ivy League school, she was always so approachable. I also really loved her. She was very warm, but also no nonsense.
Yes.
Which I love that combination in her. I love that she was always wearing her Coke bottle glasses. It's like a signature touch of hers. And she was always just very concerned about everybody and how you were doing personally. And she always just brought more than just a professional aspect to everything. She was like a colleague, but she was also a friend. And she really cared about students in this profession genuinely. I know that she spent many times in committee arguing for kids. I remember you said that there was a kid at Coach who she had advocated for, and I remember learning about that in your office. And you know, it's very hard to talk about somebody whose qualities you're trying to sum up in a couple of minutes, but we just wanted to share with you that we really miss you, Panetha. And this profession has suffered a great loss through your passing. Osman, would you like to say anything?
What I remember her most for was we discussed a book. It's called Birds Without Wings, and it was about a cultural book about Greeks and Turks living together in Turkey before the wars. And I had really enjoyed that conversation with her. And then I had written a couple of short stories that I had shared with her that I was writing for my nephews, and her feedback was unbelievable. And she encouraged me to keep going. These are the things that you remember from not just colleagues, but when someone becomes your friend. And she's going to be dearly missed by all of us.
Thanks for Marie. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to say something about Panetha. I think all of us really miss her, and all of us still wish she were here.
Exactly.
Thanks, Marie, and thanks to everybody who has brought us together to give us a chance to say something about Panetha. And we hope that wherever she is, that she is at peace.
Yes.